Hello, everybody. I tell you what, this is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Paul, Steve, Art, for inviting me to be part of this again. I'm so excited I cannot contain myself. Steve, I'm so excited that I can't wait to hear myself speak. Let me say this now. I have the feeling that you're, in terms of your political leaning, you're probably conservative, aren't you? Now, if you are a liberal, here's a word of warning. You may want to step out now because by the time I get finished, you'll be a conservative. Okay? And with that, let me share a little bit with you about myself. I'm a former Army officer. I served 16 years on active duty in the 1990s. I'm dating myself. And when they came up with a 15-year retirement program, I decided to take my major's rank and do something different with my life. So I don't use the word retirement because the word retirement is not in the Bible. I completed my service obligation in 1996 in serving my country. And I did the airborne, air assault thing, spent a lot of time at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Over the past several years, though, when you take an oath as an officer to defend the Constitution against all enemies, against foreign and domestic, I realized we have a domestic enemy where that oath applies. So I got involved in the culture, do what I could do, play my part to save our republic. And I'm not going to let modesty prevent me from saying this. Over the past several years, I built a significant reputation of being the nation's leading diversity engagement and conservative messaging strategist. At the completion of my presentation, you'll understand why. Been on Fox News commentary, political commentary on Fox News, things of that sort. I write a bi-monthly editorial in the 1819news.com, which is an Alabama-based conservative news source that comes out. Matter of fact, I have one coming out this Sunday. It's every other Sunday. Of course, I was with Trump Presidential Campaign Coalition Advisory Board with Black Voices for Trump. Keep your eyes open. I got a podcast coming out in about another 2 weeks called Friends of Freedom. I've authored 2 books. The first one there, the smaller one, is called Frederick Douglass Republicans, The Movement to Reignite America's Passion for Liberty. The second book there, Telling Conservatives the Truth, which I do have copies here for you to invest in. Now, I know that James Garlow has his book out. He had like 6 on the table last night there for free. Now, my book is also for free, but the autograph inside each book is $25. I'm giving you a 20% discount. You're all so funny. When my first book came out, here's a quote from a young lady who was the executive with the NAACP. And you see it there. If the Frederick Douglass Liberty message gets on a national level, the Democrat Party will be toast and President Obama will be history. Of course, with that kind of statement, being a Democrat, you want to remain anonymous, right? And I have some books here. I will set up a table around about 2:30. I'll be here the rest of tonight and tomorrow, okay? I'll talk more about the book in a minute. And I know you want to take notes, but let me say this. Let me encourage you not to take any notes. Give me your full attention, because everything that I'm going to cover in this presentation is in the book in detail. Okay? But if you want to take notes, go ahead and take notes. My objective today is to empower you to become force multipliers for liberty. What I mean by that is I want to empower you how to have conversations with people, not confrontations. How to be on the offense and not the defense. I want to empower you how when you go back to your community, you can inspire people about the value of liberty and the importance of our Constitution. I want to empower you how to trump the race card, pun intended. We have two challenges that we face. We have a messaging problem and we have a problem with election integrity. Don't you agree? I contend we must solve these problems simultaneously. I will go also and make the point that messaging and solving that problem is more important than election integrity. If we fix the problem with the cheating and our messaging is still ineffective, we still lose. We got to get both of them fixed. Today, I want to address this whole thing about messaging. You agree with this slide here? Our social institutions no longer promote our founding principles. Why? They've been overtaken by the left. We can't count on them anymore. So what is the last line of defense to save this nation? The last line of defense, in my opinion, are pastors and conservative parents and grandparents. We are the last line of defense. Therefore, we must become better messengers of liberty. If not, it's over with. That picture you see there really doesn't resemble what's here. That picture there is more diverse. We got to become more diverse. We got to inspire more young people, women, people of different ethnicities to understand the value of liberty and become what? More embrace conservatism. But let me talk about this word conservative. When it comes to messaging, this is my research here, 98% of conservatives fail. So 98% of the people in this room fail when it comes to messaging. If you identify yourself as conservative, when you're engaging, you're failing. The only two people who probably know how to do this effectively is probably Steve Maxwell and myself, and a few others who have heard me speak before. But here's some hope. They did this research and found out 71% of Americans believe the U.S. is going in the wrong direction. Some of them include Democrats. If we could get our messaging straight and together and be more effective, we can break the backbone of the left by penetrating the 71%. They're having a problem with this anti-God, anti-Marxist agenda being pushed by the administration. Most Americans embrace what we call conservative values. That's what this research is telling me, these polls. You agree with this statement? Shout racist and you shut conservatives down. Take away our tone. Therefore, we are on the defense. If we're going to save this nation, we must be on the offense all the time. You got me so far? I don't like giving Saul Alinsky any credit, but he said something in his book, Rules for Radicals, when he said, he who controls the language controls the masses. We have a brand problem. The left have redefined the word conservative, where the word conservative now has a racist connotation. As soon as you tell somebody you're a conservative, you just basically admitted that you're a racist or an Uncle Tom, that you just grew 7 heads, and the attack is on. We have a messaging problem, and we must stop using the word conservative. Get rid of that word. We will not save America under the name of conservatism because the left has demonized it. I know you don't like hearing me saying what I'm saying, but you know it's true. We got to stop doing things that we know are going to lead to defeat. We got to come up with another way to identify ourselves. So the left has demonized that word. Our young kids today, when they go off to college, they're being taught that conservatives are racist and Nazis. But not just had that word conservative been redefined by the left, there are some things that has happened in history where that word conservative has a racist connotation. So let's go back to July 1964, that's when Lyndon Johnson, and you see this picture here, he signed the Civil Rights Act into law. You remember now, at that time, you had your racist, staunch Democrat segregationists who filibustered the bill and voted against it based on racist grounds. You see who they are here. Al Gore's daddy out of Tennessee. Bill Clinton's mentor, Richard Russell, and Senator Robert Byrd. They voted against legislation based on racist reasons. Now, there was a Republican senator. He also voted against it, but he did not vote against it based on racist grounds. He voted against it based on constitutional grounds. His name was Senator Barry Goldwater. Robert Bork was a Yale University professor at that time. He wrote a 75-page opinion that Goldwater used to determine how he was going to vote. So Goldwater voted no on that legislation based on Title II that dealt with accommodations and Title VII that dealt with unemployment. You remember Goldwater's nickname? His nickname was Mr. Conservative. Follow me now. His nickname was Mr. Conservative. What was the title of the book he wrote in 1960? It sold over 3 million copies. The Conscience of a Conservative. At the 1964 Republican Party National Convention held at the Cal Palace in San Francisco, the party of Lincoln, the party of emancipation, the Republican Party, who did they nominate as their presidential candidate running against LBJ? Barry Goldwater. When that happened, black folks left the Republican Party en masse. My parents were staunch Republicans until 1964. So keep that date in mind, July 16, 1964. That's the day that Goldwater accepted the party's nomination. On that very same day, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he issued a press release. In that press release, he said, "It is unfortunate and disastrous that the Republican Party has nominated Senator Barry Goldwater as his candidate for the presidency of the United States." Now, keep in mind now, at this time, Dr. King had a household name. This is after the March on Washington. And see what else he said. I'm going to highlight about 2 more sentences. Look what else he said in his press release that was released on July 16th, the same day Goldwater accepted the party nomination. It says here, Mr. Goldwater represents an unrealistic conservatism that's totally out of touch with the realities of the 20th century. It also says here, while not himself a racist, Mr. Goldwater articulates a philosophy. What philosophy? The conservative philosophy, which gives aid and comfort to the racists. This is when the word conservative started to have a negative or racist connotation in the black community. And also in that last sentence there, I'll highlight, his candidacy and philosophy will serve as the umbrella under which extremists of all stripes will stand. This is Dr. King saying this. I was growing up in Alabama at that time. The word conservative has become culturally ingrained in the black community to mean racist. It's not the language of liberty. It's the language of oppression. You add on top of that how the left-wing media has redefined the word. So you wonder why we're losing. Goldwater was not a racist. In fact, he was an integrationist. Here's some things he achieved. When he inherited his family's department store, he went around Phoenix encouraging business owners to integrate their establishment. Goldwater was one of the early members of the NAACP and the Urban League. He actually took money out of his personal pocket to help the Urban League and the NAACP during their tough times financially. Goldwater, in 1953, he integrated the Senate cafeteria in our nation's capital when one of his black staffers was refused service. You see the rest of them there. So Goldwater was not a racist. He was an integrationist, but with his no vote, he sided with the racists. You follow me? He had constitutional grounds. The racists had racist reasons. You follow me? You recognize this gentleman here? Let me set this up for you. A friend of mine wrote a book review on my first book, Frederick Douglass Republican, and she had a friend that was Rush's executive producer at that time. She sent the book review to her friend and to Rush, got a call back and said, "Tell KCarl we like what he's saying, keep it up, we're following him." So since 2008, I've been making a point that we should stop using the word conservative and come up with another way to identify ourselves. Take a listen to what Rush Limbaugh had to say.
I don't like having to say this, but being honest with you and with myself is paramount. And I can tell you, and you know this without me telling you, that if conservatism and liberalism are brands, the left has succeeded in destroying the brand of conservative. All you have to say the word conservative, and they think you're talking about a Nazi or a racist. Pushing conservatism is not the answer. So what I would suggest to you, when you're out and about and you're doing, if you run into an occasion where you have the opportunity to talk politics, people that don't agree with you, do not use the word conservative. Do everything else, but don't call yourself that. Don't promote it. We've got a brand problem. It's time I hate it. I hate having to admit it. Get rid of it. Stop calling yourself that. Just be one. Just talk to people as one. You know what I think? I think you're going to find, if we do this, that you're going to have far more people agree with your solutions than will disagree if you don't identify yourself first as a conservative when talking. Nobody needs to abandon conservatism. It's just stop labeling everything we think or do as conservative and just do it.
Now, so you see that Rush Limbaugh agreed with me. Here's a question. KCarl, you're suggesting we should stop using the word conservative, and Rush agreed with you. You identified the problem, but what's the solution? I'm glad you asked the question. And the best way I can answer your question is to tell you this story or my testimony. As I share my testimony with you, you're going to see yourself probably in my testimony. It all started several years ago when I was invited to a friend's home to watch a football game. There were 18 to 20 blacks who were there, all my friends, all of them were black Democrats. And that night, the subject of politics came up. When I shared with my friends that I was a conservative, the attacks began. One after another, they called me everything but a child of God. Uncle Tom, foot shuffler, the house N-word. You're a sellout to your community. Your parents must be disappointed in you. I'm telling you, their insults ran the gamut. I went home that night thinking and mostly praying, how can I win this narrative? How can I be on the offense and not the defense? How can I inspire them to vote their values, because many of them are probably more conservative as I am? How can I trump this race card? So after about a period of over a year of reading and research, the aha moment came when I came up with something called the Frederick Douglass Republican Engagement Strategy. After about a year, after God had perfected this messaging strategy in me, I hosted a football viewing at my home. I invited those same 18 to 20 black Democrats, friends of mine, to my home, and reluctantly they all came. And that night, of course, the subject of politics came up. Okay, Karl, he's a conservative. I said, wait a minute. I'm more than a conservative. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. And I embrace the life-empowering values that Frederick Douglass wrote and he spoke about. Respect for the U.S. Constitution, respect for life, the belief in limited power government, economic prosperity, legal immigration, parental school choice, the right of the people keep and bear arms. Douglass wrote about these things. When I shared them with my friends that night, all of them started talking about how they were a Frederick Douglass Republican too. I'm telling you, what I'm sharing with you today is a transferable skill set. You can do this. I'm going to teach it to you in the next few minutes. So you can walk out of here empowered. You're getting a lot of great information here the next few days. Don't become intellectually obese. Work it off. Learn how to engage. You all right? So people ask me all the time, how did I come up with this? I've been chosen. Through divine intervention, God gave me this. I was not taught this. It was not given to me by any man. God pricked my spirit, and I listened. He said, I don't want your ability. I need your availability. So for the past 15 years, I've been on this quest, traveling the country, and I go out and I preach to the conservative choir. See, the choir needs a new song to sing. I love hymns, but we got to pump it up a little bit. And I've got to teach you the Frederick Douglass melody of liberty so you can start singing it so we become more diverse. Okay? Quick class on Frederick Douglass. This is a man who was born in 1818. The way I like to put it, because he was born into slavery, Frederick Douglass was born below poverty. He was a slave for the first 20 years of his life. Never stepped to bed at age 8, never owned a pair of shoes at age 10. He was homeschooled, self-taught. Frederick Douglass started his own homeschooling program. You want to know why? Because he rejected the slave master's Common Core curriculum. Y'all get that? Somebody say amen. I'm not here by myself, am I? Kind of fast forward a little bit. Frederick Douglass wrote 3 autobiographies. That's an important point to make because at that time in history, 90% of black Americans could not read or write. That brother wrote 3 books. And he wrote a novel called The Heroic Slave. He was an advisor to 5 Republican presidents. Let me go through them right quickly. Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, James Garfield, Rutherford Hayes, and Benjamin Harrison. That's the life of Frederick Douglass. Oh, by the way, Frederick Douglass passed away in 1895. At the time of his death, he had $300,000 in savings. In today's money, that's over $10 million. That's his life. But when it comes to the literary legacy of Frederick Douglass, that's what we need to leverage to save this nation. His liberty message. So to become a Frederick Douglass Republican is not based on your skin color. It's based on what we call the life-empowering values of Frederick Douglass. There's 12 of them. As I go through these values, let you know what they are, keep in mind now, Douglass wrote and spoke about these values. We have the literary legacy. And see how many of these values that you agree with. Again, it's not about color, it's about values. And these values are the common ground that most Americans agree with. If I could give any word of advice to anyone running for office, campaign on values. Values unite, issues divide. Life empowering values of Frederick Douglass. Number 1, respect for the U.S. Constitution. Respect for life is number 2. Number 3, the belief in the limited power of government. See, conservatives like to say, I believe in limited government. See, when you say that, the left will spin it around and say, oh, you believe in limited government, you want to take folks' entitlements away. No, I believe the limited power of government where I like keep more of the money that I make. Number 4, the belief in personal responsibility. That comes out of 2 Thessalonians. A man doesn't work, he shouldn't eat, right? Number 5, economic prosperity. The right of people keeping bear arms. Keep in mind now, Douglass wrote about these things. We have this. Free speech, religious liberty, women's right to vote, legal immigration. Douglass wrote about immigration. You don't have to write it down, it's in the book. Douglass wrote about parental school choice. It's in the book. I put this up there because back in 2019, check this out. Stanford University did a research. They found out that when liberals campaign on conservative ideas and values, they pull liberal voters and conservative voters. Something about values. Values stand the test of time, and they're conservative values. We have the right message, but our messaging sucks. This slide here is a game changer. I've shown this slide to several young people. I don't care if they're BLM, those who've been indoctrinated to Marxism. When I show this slide to them or give them a card with this image on there, there's an awakening there that occurred because most Americans have never heard the liberty message of Frederick Douglass. Let me quickly contrast the lives of Frederick Douglass and Karl Marx, and let me know what you think. Both Frederick Douglass and Karl Marx were born in 1818. Frederick Douglass was born into slavery. Karl Marx was born into an affluent family. His father was a lawyer. He married into money. His wife came from a successful business family. Frederick Douglass was born below poverty. Frederick Douglass, America's greatest liberty messenger. Karl Marx, the father of communism, the father of oppression. Frederick Douglass had real-life experiences about oppression. Karl Marx was a political theorist about oppression. He wrote about things he never experienced. It makes sense to you so far? All right, come on. Frederick Douglass believed in our God-given rights. Of course, Karl Marx believed in government dependency. Heck, he depended on everybody else to take care of him. Now, Frederick Engels gave him some money. He had a rich uncle. Karl Marx never had a real job in his life. Frederick Douglass was a free market entrepreneur. Karl Marx was a Satanist. Frederick Douglass was an ordained Christian preacher. You see the contrast? Who do you follow? Karl Marx and people who are Marxists are revolutionists. They want to tear everything up, shred the Constitution, start over. Douglass said in his third autobiography, Douglass said, I'm not a revolutionist, I'm a reformer. Let's keep the best that we have and make things better. Let's apply the Constitution fairly. Karl Marx died in abject poverty. Frederick Douglass died with an equivalent of $10 million in savings. So when you tally this all up, the things that Douglass was able to achieve in his life would never occurred under the economic system espoused by Karl Marx. So when you tally it all up, what do you get? Liberty versus tyranny. This is why we got to put Douglass in the game. He's a franchise player. Don't put him on the bench. Give him the ball. Don't call any special plays. Just get out of the way and let the brother operate. He's a franchise player. This engagement strategy, we have a 98% success rate. I'm going to share some testimonies in a minute with you. The only people you cannot engage are those who are making the Kool-Aid for people to drink. We're moving the needle. I've been doing this for almost 16 years now, under the radar. We're moving the needle. We're getting people who come from backgrounds or family environment where they have not voted conservatively. Let me share a few of them with you. I was back in 2016, I was in Providence, Rhode Island, and I came and I spoke to this Latino church here. All millennials. These young people come from Democrat families. I came in and spoke, shared the Frederick Douglass presentation like I'm sharing with you. Within 50 minutes, all of them became Frederick Douglass Republicans. And not only that, they all joined the Providence Republican City Committee and ran for the offices, president, vice president. That club was lily white until they joined. They took it over. They were inspired by the liberty message of Frederick Douglass. That's called moving the needle. What did I focus on? I focused on values. Values. And I used Douglass as my lens to help articulate those values. I didn't use the word conservative. Frederick Douglass Republican. I'm working with Pastor Lou. I've been traveling off the country, and I've been talking to some Latino pastors. And I asked them this question. I said, tell me now, who is your patriotic American icon? Is it George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Benjamin Franklin? You don't have one. I said, let me lend one to you. I started talking to them about Frederick Douglass. They became so excited, I realized I'm actually finishing up writing this booklet. It will be in Spanish. We're going to disseminate that throughout the Latino community to inspire them and educate them about the value of liberty, the significance of our Constitution, to help them understand red in the United States don't mean communism. And just because the party has a Democrat party in the name, don't mean democracy. We got to educate them on that. We got to introduce them, and so Frederick Douglass become their liberty hero. You follow me? Y'all okay? All right. We're moving the needle. This is my brother here, also 2016. We were invited. I couldn't get there in time. I did get there because I actually took this picture, but it wasn't the beginning. We were invited to participate in a debate, Republican-Democrat debate. You see the guy on my brother's left shoulder sitting in that chair? That was a Democrat combatant. When the principal stood up and introduced my brother, the entire room of students booed. Represented the Republican Party, Pastor Colonel Smith, boo. When the Democrats stood up, yay! But after the introduction, they gave each of them 2 minutes to say an opening statement. My brother got up and stood because he's been trained by me. He said, I want you to know I've been inspired by the life and writings of Frederick Douglass. I'm more than a conservative. I'm more than a Republican. I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican, and I embrace the life and power and value that Frederick Douglass wrote about. Respect for the Constitution, respect for life, blah, 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 blah. Let me fast forward this. When I was there taking the picture, there was a teacher next to me. When she was introducing my brother and they booed, the teacher leaned over to me and said, Uncle Tom, traitor. At the conclusion of the debate, the principal got up there and said, I learned something today. The teacher said, I'm a Frederick Douglass Republican. And the teacher who booed leaned over to me and said, can I get some of those cards that you have? Because I want to blow it up and put it in the classroom. Frederick Douglass is a game changer. We got to leverage it. I can give you the strategy, but I can't give you the will to employ it. This card right here is a game changer. Matter of fact, you get 3 of these cards that come with the book. It's a quote from Frederick Douglass on those 12 life empowering values. Here's a quote that I share all the time that's a game changer from Robert Brown Elliott doing Reconstruction. The first 7 blacks to serve in U.S. Congress were black Republicans. One of them was Robert Brown Elliott. Here's this quote. I am a slave to principles. I call no party master. I'm a slave to Christian principles. I don't call the Republican Party or the Democrat Party my master. I'm going to vote in the way that shows my love, my allegiance to the God I serve. I'm not getting out there voting for the donkey of the Democrat Party or the elephant of the Republican Party. I'm voting for the Lion of Judah. I'm voting for the Lamb. When you share that, it resonates with people. They're hungry for this. This is a group of Frederick Douglass Republicans in Orlando, Florida. Let me tell you about Stephanie Hancock. Stephanie's out of Aurora, Colorado. She just won a city council seat in a liberal Democrat district in Aurora. She defeated the Democrat incumbent. I said, Stephanie, how'd you do it? She said, KCarl, I did what you told me. I campaigned on values. And when the time came up, they asked me about my political identity. I told them I was a Frederick Douglass Republican. And I had the content come behind the phrase, she won. But not only that, let me tell you about Guy LaLonde out of Lakeland, Florida. That's Guy there in the middle. No, Guy's not a black guy. He just got a dark tan. Guy ran for a city commission seat This seat had been occupied by black Democrats for 55 years. God won. I said, God, how'd you win? He said, KCarl, I did what you taught me. I ran on values. He then told me, said, KCarl, thinking proactively, I set a meeting up with the black pastors, black leaders, members of the NAACP. I had to go back and reintroduce myself because I want to address their concern by them not having a black Republican to represent them. There was about 40 to 60 people were there. It went so well, God told me that at the end of his presentation, he gave a quote from Frederick Douglass. He said, I will unite with anybody to do right and nobody to do wrong, and got a standing ovation. Am I right, Robert? I'm not making this stuff up. This is a game changer. Thank God we have the liberty message of Frederick Douglass to send the left back to France. That's the team right there. You see Guy there to my right, Paul, and the world-famous Robert Goodman. Robert's in the house. Okay, how did he do it? He focused on values. I put this up because this came out a couple days ago where it says that Trump is losing ground with the black vote. He's losing ground with the black vote. Women vote, young people, and women. How can we turn this around? Y'all saw what happened yesterday when he went to the National Association of Black Journalists, and they made him look like a racist. I wish they had called me. I would have sat down and said, Mr. Trump, you got to learn how to inoculate yourself against the vile and the malicious attacks of the left. You got to learn how to leverage Frederick Douglass. I would say it to them. When they asked you a question about why did you interview this racist at Mar-a-Lago, I would have responded by saying, Mr. Trump, would you tell them that on weekends, Dr. King would meet with members of the KKK? On weekends, sometimes, Frederick Douglass would meet with slave masters. We can't avoid this conversation. We got to have dialogue with them to help them become delivered. That's how you handle that. Give me a call, Mr. President. I'll help you out. Let me quickly tell you about the Save America Project. Let me wrap this thing up. The Save America Project. If you're paying any attention to what's going on, there are 5 core urban areas that we must win and move that needle. We don't have to win, you got to move the needle. This is where you have a high concentration of black voters. Detroit, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Phoenix, and Atlanta. We got to move the needle. We got to get into that community, get this message of liberty in there, and move the needle. Just move the needle by 5 and 8%. We can break the backbone of the left. How do you move the needle? What we're going to do, we're going to take what already works. We're going to take the values of Frederick Douglass, put it in form of videos, and get with a company where these videos will pop up on people's mobile devices. And then learn what it means to be a Frederick Douglass Republican, what Douglass said about these things. And then give them resources and education so they become force multipliers. Like I mentioned about what happened in Providence, Rhode Island, when those young kids became Frederick Douglass Republicans, they went back home and got their parents, sisters, hamster, everybody became Frederick Republicans. You follow me? Oh, my God. Y'all ready? All right. This is how we do this. But I'm being honest with you, it takes money to move a message. It takes money to move a message. That's my team I put together. I cannot do this by myself. I don't know everything, but I'm smart enough to realize I had to put people around me who can take what I'm saying and make it scalable. You have Matt Wiley there, who's a very astute political operative. Keisha King out of Jacksonville, Florida. What she did in Jacksonville, Florida, she moved the needle back in the last general election where blacks, Democrat, voted for Trump, went from 5% to 17%. And she didn't have the Frederick Douglass engagement strategy. She just focused on values. Dominic Rapapini out of Connecticut, He ran for Secretary of State in the last general election, a former Fortune 500 executive. KCarl, an expert on messaging. This is my team. I'm not out here doing this by myself. I got a team that can make this happen. We're doing some things right now. They're the one involved in Stephanie Hancock winning that race with the training from KCarl and Dominic Rapapini. Now, let me get into this. I'm going to shut this thing down. Y'all ready? What is the Frederick Douglass Republican engagement based on? Let me quickly get into this. Number one, it's based on the outreach ministry of Jesus Christ, diversity engagement strategy of the Apostle Paul, and the liberty message of Frederick Douglass. That's what it's based on. Let me break that down for you. How is it based on Jesus Christ? Remember now in the first chapter of Acts, after 3 years of training the disciples, Christ said to them, don't you leave now to receive the power. Christ was referring to the power of the Holy Spirit. And he said to them, when you go out, I want you to go to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, all the parts of the earth. Here's where conservatives get it wrong. Conservatives want to do outreach. Quit talking about you want to do outreach when you can't do in-reach. In-reach means you got to start in Jerusalem. Where is Jerusalem? That's your community. That's where you live. Your Thanksgiving dinner table is a symbolic representation of your Jerusalem. That's in-reach. Your family and friends. Then you go to Judea. That's a community outside where you live. That is still in reach. Now, when you go to Samaria, now you're going to a community where they may not look like you and could be antagonistic. That's outreach. You don't do outreach first. You practice on your family and friends so you can be ready for outreach. It's based on the engagement strategy of the Apostle Paul. How so? When you read Acts 18:3, by occupation, Apostle Paul was an attorney, he was a tent maker. God called the Apostle Paul to establish a big tent. Big tent is a metaphoric expression for diversity outreach. We say it all the time. We got to have a big tent. The Apostle Paul was a diversity engagement specialist. He gave us the blueprint how to do it. That's why in 1 Corinthians 9:22, so Paul said in some translations, I become all things, all people. What he meant by that, he said, I entered their world and I tried to experience life from their viewpoint. That's how I knew what to say. If you enter my world as a black American and you try to experience life from my viewpoint, you're going to discover the word conservative is not the language of liberty, it's the language of oppression. So why are you using it? And come talking to, it's not just blacks now, our young people that they've been indoctrinated. You follow me? Oh, boy. Quickly. Through the ministry of the Apostle Paul, God has given us the blueprint how we can improve our brand. We got a brand problem as conservatives. We got an image problem. Before the Apostle Paul became a champion of Christianity, he was also well known for being a bloodthirsty persecutor of the Christians, and that reputation preceded him. Gentiles shook with fear when they heard Paul's name. Allow me to use my biblical imagination for a moment. You know how people talk. Y'all look at Paul. That no good liar. He's called himself a Christian evangelist. Y'all know what he did to those people in Jerusalem, in Judea. He's called himself a Christian evangelist because he wants to come over here, get us to become Christians so he can persecute us too. How did Paul overcome that? He had a tremendous impact in the early growth of the church. How did he improve his brand among the Gentiles to have that impact in the church? Whatever he did, we got to take note of that, conservatives, and do the same thing. What's the first thing you think Paul did? That's right. After his Damascus Road experience, he changed his name. He went from Saul to Paul. He took on his Roman name that was more appealing to the Gentiles. We got to get rid of the word conservative. Talk about we're Frederick Douglass Republican. The word Frederick Douglass name is more appealing to Americans. It's more appealing to Americans. It don't carry a racist connotation. But when you put the word Republican to it, it creates an oxymoron. Frederick Douglass is an icon of liberty, Republican because of negative propaganda, icon of racism. The two don't go together. So when you tell somebody you're a Frederick Douglass Republican, you just broke their brain. Now you get a chance to engage and share what you mean by it. You follow me? I'm going to speed up now. The second thing Paul did, he articulated his transformation. He didn't just quote the Christ. He talked about how he was transformed by the teaching of the Christ. We just can't quote Frederick Douglass. We got to talk about how we have been inspired by the life and writings of Frederick Douglass. He transformed my thinking. He helped me look things the right way. Last thing Paul did, he demonstrated his transformation. He traveled throughout Asia Minor, the Roman Empire. He went to places people never ministered before. We have to demonstrate our transformation. So when you demonstrate your transformation, you have good deeds. When you have good deeds, you got a transformation, you got a name change, that becomes unstoppable. The left has no answer for this. They have no answer for Frederick Douglass. Satan has no answer for Christ. We got to leverage it. One of the best ways to demonstrate your transformation, you got to, what we call, wear the message. Put Douglass on your chest and invite conversations. But you got to know what you're talking about, right? You got to get KCarl's book. Don't get just one, get two, because we got to grow this army, right? You got to know what you're talking about. Each shirt comes with a card that explains the meaning of the imagery on the shirt. Here's some more examples of the shirt. Now, pastors, this next photo is just for you. It was created by my brother who's a pastor of 40-some years. Face it, fight it, fix it. Now, you can preach that. We got to face Marxism. It's here. We got to fix it. We got to fix it with Jesus. We got to fix it with the Apostle Paul. We got to fix it with Frederick Douglass. We got to fight it. That's how we fight. Now, the next one, give you a warning. It's a little bit edgy, but it's the most popular shirt we have with young people. Matter of fact, Paul Blair wants one of these shirts. See, he's still waiting. We're talking about Frederick Douglass, right? The original bad Republican. I had that shirt on the airport flying in. Man, who are you talking about? Frederick Douglass. The whole back of the plane became a Frederick Douglass happy hour. I mean, no alcohol, just being happy. Let me back at that point. You seen this? You seen this? Fight, fight, fight. That's what we're in. We are in a spiritual warfare. We're in a fight. But you got to have weapons to fight with. What are you going to fight with? They're attacking our faith. They're coming after our family and they're coming after our children. What are you going to fight with? We got to win this thing. We got to fight with Jesus, fight with the Apostle Paul. We got to fight with Frederick Douglass. Fight with Jesus, fight with the Apostle Paul, and fight with Frederick Douglass. They want us to bow down to the altar of the almighty government and not to the almighty God. How are we going to win? We got to fight with Jesus, fight with the Apostle Paul, and fight with Frederick Douglass. Y'all not feeling me. We got to fight with Jesus, fight with the Apostle Paul, and fight with Frederick Douglass. You're not feeling me here. Let's go to the back of the room. How are we going to fight? We got to fight with Jesus, fight with the Apostle Paul, and fight with Frederick Douglass. Let me go one more time. How are we going to win? We got to fight with Jesus, fight with the Apostle Paul, fight with Frederick Douglass. One more time over here. Let me give you a chance to make amends for yourself. We got to win. We must be in this fight. We can't sit this out. The way we win is we got to what? Fight with Jesus. Fight with the Apostle Paul. Fight with Frederick Douglass. How are we going to win? Fight with Jesus. Fight with the Apostle Paul. Fight with Frederick Douglass. And when you put the three together, you get the Frederick Douglass Republican engagement strategy. Fight, fight, fight. Fight with Jesus. Fight with the Apostle Paul. And fight with Frederick Douglass. This is how we save our nation. We have the answer. You got to do it. If you need me to come out and train you on it, let me know. We got the answer. So I hope that makes sense to you. 2:30, I'll have a table set up. I'm going to run out of books. I'm going to tell you that now. I'm going to run out of books because I see a lot of Frederick Douglass Republicans in here. But when I run out of books, let's go ahead and take care of the transaction so when I get back home to the office, we'll mail them out to you. If you run out of books, I have a QR code. Go ahead and get that book today because that 20% discount is not going to last when I get back home. It's going to go back at the $30. So you better get it now. And like I said before, the books are free. The autograph in each book is $25. God bless you. I appreciate it very much.